Tinker versus Des Moines case overview. Tinker v. Des Moines was a landmark Supreme Court case in 1969 that involved the rights of students to express themselves in public schools. The participants in this case were Mary Beth Tinker, her brother John Tinker, and their friend Christopher Eckhart, who were all students at Des Moines School. The case began in 1965 during the Vietnam War when the Tinker siblings and Eckhart decides to wear black armbands to school as a peaceful protest against the war. When the principal became aware of the students' plan, he threatened them that they would be suspended if they show up to school wearing them because, according to the principal, it can distract the learning environment. Despite the warning, a couple of them still showed up to school with black armbands on, leading them to get suspended. The students and their parents would file a lawsuit against the school district, arguing that the policy violated their First Amendment rights. Plaintiffs argued that wearing of the armbands was a form of symbolic speech and that they had the right to express their views on the war in peaceful manners. They also argued that the school district policies was too broad and violated the right to free speech. The defendants, on the other hand, argued that the school had the right to limit speech in order to maintain order and discipline in the school. They also argued that wearing of the armbands could cause a disruption and that the policy was necessary to prevent this from happening. The students appealed the ruling to the U.S. Courts of Appeals but lost and took the case to the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court agreed to hear it because it involved the First Amendment rights of the students in public setting. The constitutional question raised by the participants was whether students' First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and expression were protected in public school settings. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled in favor of the students, stating that the students do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech. The court recognized the schools have the authority to regulate student speech, but the authority is limited by the First Amendment. The final vote count would be 7-2 in favor of the students. The case was significant because it established the importance for student free speech rights in public schools and continues to be a landmark case in the area of constitutional law. We believe that the case was fairly settled because we think that the freedom of speech shouldn't be censored by anyone.